Welcome back. This is Sandy with Sandy's Organized Chaos, and today we're going to be doing this frosted peekaboo look. Now I am doing a St. Patrick's Day themed tumbler, but since it's right around the corner, but this technique can obviously be used on any type of design you would like. As always, I'll make sure to put everything that I used into the description box down below for you guys to find if you would like. Now let's wake up, prep those tumblers, and slay all day. Let's do this. All right, I am using a 20-ounce skinny today. Now, the reason why I used a skinny today was because I wanted to use a special decal paper, which I will talk about later on in my tutorial here. I went ahead and prepped it and primed it that green to go along with my glitter. The glitter I'm using is Lucky from my glitter shop, but please feel free to use any type of green glitter you already have on hand. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take my epoxy. I like to use Alumilite's Amazing Clear Cast, but you know, that's just me. Use what you have, okay? There's no right or wrong in art, guys, all right? We're gonna put a very thin layer on, then we're gonna load up our glitter really well onto our tumbler. Now, after I get done loading up my glitter onto my tumbler, I'm just gonna let that hang dry for about 4 or 5 hours. And then after that 4 or 5 hours is up, I'm going to apply another coat of epoxy over this. Once that next coat of epoxy has cured that I placed over the naked glitter here, I went ahead and I trimmed up my rim and I just gave it a light sanding. You don't want to sand it down too much because this is metallic glitter and you may have a chance of kind of rubbing that color off. You just want to make sure that your surface is nice and smooth for when we go to do that frosted peekaboo look. That's all you want to do. Nothing too hard. Very easy so far. I know you guys got this. So for the shamrock peekaboo that I did, this decal actually came with the outline there and with the center already with it. So that was pretty neat for those of us who don't know how to do the offset look. So it already came with an offset. So I made it about 1 inch wide. And now again, this was on a skinny tumbler, a skinny 20-ounce tumbler that I did this for. So I did 11 of the offset and I did about 20 of the filled in shamrocks. Now, the reason I only did 11 of the offset portion of the shamrock there was because I didn't want to do all of them with an outline, but that's just me. If you want to do them all, like I said, wherever your imagination takes you, let it take you there. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a semi-permanent vinyl for the filled in shamrock. There we go. And then whatever type of vinyl you choose for the outline to cut that. So I'm gonna go ahead and place those on my board and get them cut out, but I'm just using white vinyl for all of this today. All right, my tumbler is nice and cured and ready for those peekaboos. The first thing I'm going to do is just kind of prep it. Every single layer I do this. I trim up the rim, I give it a little sand, I make sure that my surface is nice and smooth. Then I'm going to take some rubbing alcohol. I'm going to spritz it down to make sure there's no extra little materials on my cup. So that way when we go to do the spray paint, nothing will kind of be in there permanently with the spray paint. So I'm going to go ahead and finish doing this real quick and then we'll move on to the frosted peekaboo. All right, now that my surface is all prepped here, I'm going to take my shamrocks and you just want to, you know, put them however you want to do. If you want it more aligned, do it that way. I just did mine kind of sporadically throughout the tumbler and filled it in really well. I used all 20 of those little shamrocks because I wanted to make sure it was nice and filled in, you know, because that's the look we're going for. So I even made sure to put a couple on the bottom as well. Don't forget about that bottom. All right, you just want to make sure that all your little edges are nice and flat so that way our spray paint doesn't get up underneath any of those little decals there. All right, let's move outside for the next part. So the spray paint I am using today is by Rust-Oleum. This is Frosted Pearl, and that's what gives us that frosted look on our tumbler. I think these are a really awesome idea because it's so hard to cover up that glitter sometimes. It's like you really like the look of peekaboos, but you don't want to cover it up, you know, so this is another great option or way to do those peekaboos if you would like to. So I went ahead and I shook my can up really, really well, and I made sure to prime it really good so that way I knew all that the frost paint was all mixed up really well. Now it almost looks like you're not doing anything, but you are. Now this took me about 4 coats. I did a light coat each round. I'm going to do a light coat here. I'm going to let that dry. Then I'm going to come back through and do another light coat, and then 2 more after that. So the best way that you can see if you're actually doing anything is once I am done here, I'm going to kind of show you guys at the top. You'll definitely be able to see the difference as you go, because I was a little nervous at first myself. I'm like, oh, this doesn't look like nothing, but I'll show you guys here in a second. It just looks like little flecks of glitter or paint or, you know, sparkle inside of there. As you can see right on the top, it's doing something. As it starts to dry, it definitely gives it that look. So after it was fully dry, after I did my 4 coats here, this is what it should look like. You just want to be very careful not to make any little drips or anything, which I did make a drip, but that's okay. I'm going to put a decal over it and nobody will know, right? I'm just saying. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my decals here to expose the Peekaboo portion. I just take my X-Acto knife and just kind of poke in there. You want to be careful not to scratch that frosted look on the outside, and that's how it should look. I really think that's a pretty cool technique, and I hope you guys really enjoy doing this as well. All right, I'm going to pull up this one last little piece here, and that part is done. This really wasn't that hard to get off. They all came off very well. It didn't peel up the paint or anything like that, because again, I was worried about that too, because I never worked with this type of spray paint before, but everything came up very well. So now I'm going to move on to putting some of those offset looks on top of these shamrocks. This part is extremely easy because everything just fits right to it. So you're just going to take your little shape here and you're just going to sporadically or fully cover, it doesn't matter, however you guys decide to do it. You're going to take your little outline and you're just going to line it up really well, and you're going to press it down, and there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and then we're going to put another coat of epoxy over top of this before I move on to the decal part. Now, I know typically I don't really show how I finish my cups up, but I know sometimes you guys might be like, well, how do I finish this up after this? Do I just put a name on it? Should I put a decal on it? So I'm going to show you, I'm going to go ahead and finish this cup completely and show you guys kind of one of the techniques that I like to do when I finish up my tumblers, besides just putting a name on it or whatever it may be. So I'm going to go ahead and put my epoxy on. I'm going to let that cure overnight, and then we're going to move on to that next technique. One of the techniques I like to do is the bleach splatter look on tumblers. Every time I do a tumbler like this, it always gets lots of likes and I always get lots of sales from it. So I'm going to kind of show you guys what I mean by that here in a second if you've never seen it before. I just have some glossy white spray paint. You can use whatever color you'd like. It doesn't matter. You could use a brown as well. I'm just going to kind of check out my decal here and see where I need to spray. That's the number one thing you want to do. I did about 3 inches, which I'll go over this decal more in a second as well. This was a new decal that I decided to try out. So I'm going to take my spray paint and just kind of going based off where I put that sticker, especially in that spot that I kind of messed up, because, you know, you got to cover that up. You just want to take your spray paint and just do blotches of your spray paint right in that area where that decal was. Now I'm going to take my spray paint and I'm going to spray it until it starts to splitter. See, splitter, splatter. And then I'm just going to do that all over the front of the tumbler. I'm going to take my decal. I'm going to double check that to make sure that it looks like it's going to fit good. Yep, looks good to me. And then I'm going to do that splattery look on the back side of my tumbler as well. Again, I'm just going to take my can of spray paint and I'm just going to press it down until it just starts to kind of splatter out of the can. And I just really just very gently let go of it until it does that, and just put a bunch of those blotches all over the back. And there you go. You have a bleach spray look tumbler. I'm going to go ahead and let that dry, but first I want to talk about the decal paper that I am using today. I have had this paper for months in my drawer and I have yet to use it. And finally I was like, you know what? Today's the day. I'm going to use it. This is clear vinyl sticker paper. Now, I did find out you can actually buy these in bulk. I'll make sure to put, like I said, everything into the description, whether you just want to try it out with this little pack or if you want to buy it in bulk, you can do either way. But right on the back, it tells you exactly what you need to do. You want to make sure that you print on the glossy side. So for me, in my inkjet printer, I have to flip the paper upside down for it to print out onto the glossy side. So it's as easy as that. You stick it in your printer, you print it, you cut it out, and you slap it on your tumbler. That's it. Now, it is a little thicker than water slide paper, meaning if you use it on those curvy tumblers, you might want to make sure to really, size it correctly. I think on a 20-ounce curvy, it's about 2.5 inches before that curve starts to happen. So you want to go a little bit, less than that on your height of your decal, or it'll start to really get kind of lumpy around the bottom. You really have to work out those waves at the bottom of the decal, depending on what kind of decal you're using. But something like this, because it was circular, it definitely didn't want to form around that curve very well. So I really had to make sure to work it down. Now you could use your cutting for your on your Cricut or whatever. I just like to do stuff by hand. I want to make sure that it's as close as possible to the image so that way you can't see it. You definitely want to make sure that you use something light underneath it so that way you don't really see the image once it gets epoxied. And you also want to make sure that you apply these to a very well epoxied surface. It helps out a lot. All right, now that I kind of told you guys about that, like I said, I've had this paper in my drawer for months and I've been wanting to use it, so here we go. Now, before I apply my decal, I am going to clean up my area here. I'm going to take some rubbing alcohol. I'm using rubbing alcohol because it doesn't wipe away the paint fully. It's just going to kind of get rid of any of that overspray that happened when we were spraying. You don't want to rub off your paint. You just want to kind of, fancy it up a little bit, make it look a little bit prettier. So we're just going to do that really quick all over, so that way there's no overspray anywhere, just the blotches, and all that is fine. I'm going to triple check that my decal is going to fit now that it's nice and dry. Yes, my decal is going to fit nicely there. Now, like I said, I didn't want to put this right onto the paint, so I am going to do one more very thin coat of epoxy over this, and then I'm going to let that cure overnight, and then we will add the decal tomorrow. All right, moment of truth with this decal. Like I said, this was the first time I used it. So far, I really enjoyed how quickly it printed out. I mean, it was insanely simple. You just pick your image and print it on there and cut it and put it on. I mean, how simple is that? I like to stand mine up just so that way I can make sure everything is nice and even. I'm going to lay it back down and kind of show you guys. I'm going to work from the middle out, just laying it down. See how much easier it is on a skinny tumbler, of course. Now, you just want to make sure you work out any little air bubbles that might be in there, just making sure to work around the rim of that decal really well to make sure it's nice and flat. And that's it. You have yourself a fancy frosted Peekaboo tumbler ready for its last 2 coats of finishing epoxy. Whether you take this design and duplicate it as is, or you take it and let it inspire you to create something that is completely your own, I hope that you guys had a lot of fun watching this tutorial today. Again, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.